This is the 2024 GMC Sierra Denali for a dash camera installation. We're going to show you how we remove the housing behind the rear view mirror, how we route the wires from the rear view mirror over to the A-pillar, how we remove the A-pillar, how we run the wires from the front of the vehicle all the way to the back, how we mount the rear camera, how we actually hardwire the dash camera into the vehicle, and how we run the wires safely by the airbag. Let's go. So let's remove the housing behind the rearview mirror. As you can see, I'm taking my 4140 or a panel popper tool, and you put it in the little cracks on each side and then pop it open. And you can see the little clips right there. And then we're going to take our hands and we're going to pull towards us in order to actually remove the housing from behind the rearview mirror. And you can see there's 4 clips there. And the 4 clips come off by just pulling down, and then we just put it off to the side. Next up, we're going to run our wiring in the headliner. So we're going to tuck it behind the factory wiring that's going to the housing. And keep in mind, this headliner is very, very tight on these new GMC and Chevy Silverado trucks. So you're really going to have to work hard on getting it, especially with the Thinkware U3000. This is a very big cord. We're going to put the housing back in place because there's no point in having it sitting around the vehicle. And then we have the little clip that goes in the center. And sometimes you really got to push on this in order to get it to the clips to clip back in place. They're a little bit more tougher than some of the other housings that we've seen on other vehicles. We're going to take the Thinkware U3000 dash camera, plug the cables in, and just kind of get an idea of where we're mounting it. And it looks like it's good for placement. Now we're going to remove the A-pillar. So we just take our panel popper tool, and you can pop off these little plastic covers. And then we're going to want to move over and get our 10 mil in order to remove these bolts from the A-pillar. Once these are removed, make sure to put them off to a safe place, because the last thing you want to do is lose them, because this is what holds your A-pillar on. And then typically I just wiggle this a little bit, and you have to pull out with a little bit of force. It's in there very tight. General Motors does make it pretty tight. And then if it is the upgraded audio system, you are going to have to disconnect the tweeter. And here's the back side of the A-pillar. You can see the clip at the top and the tweeter, and just put it off to the side. Now that we have the A-pillar out of the way, we're going to take the wiring and tuck it into the headliner. And as you can see, it takes a little bit of time to massage it in because that headliner is very tight. And we want to be careful with it because it is a very nice finish, especially on the Denali. And we're going to take the rear camera cable and tuck it in behind the airbag. That way it's actually safely ran. And here's a big note. We're going to want to start the vehicle up and motorize the rear slider window to see which way it slides, because we want to mount the rear camera on the opposite side of the slider. We've seen a lot of people mount it on this rear window or on the wrong side, and it causes problems. So now what I like to do is remove the weather stripping and pull it down, because it's a lot easier to run the rear camera cable when you have it. Plus, you can easily see where the airbag is so that you can tuck the wire up there. Now, I'm just putting this in place right now just to kind of hold it there. And then I'm going to be figuring out the length that I want to run. So now we're moving to the rear, and I'm removing the rear weather stripping because this is a crew cab truck. And you can see, if you peek up there, you can see the airbag is up top there. And we're going to make sure to run it as close as we can to the exterior of the vehicle on the inside. That way it's not causing any issues. And now on the rear, this is the C-pillar. The C-pillar needs to be removed. And as you can see, there's all the clips there. That way you can actually remove it and get it out of place, because there is a small airbag in the corner there. And that small airbag, we need to run the cabling in behind. Now, we don't always take this panel off because some of the vehicles, it's a little bit easier for us to just tuck it in behind. But here's a picture. You can see the airbag clear as day. And if you want to take it off, there is a 7 mil there. And you can actually take the 7 mil off and take the whole panel and get it completely out of your way so you can run the cable easily. So now we're going to actually continue taking the rear camera cable and tucking it into the rear headliner. This is very tight, this section of the vehicle. And as you can see, we try with lots of different techniques and different types of tools. We're using our panel popper. We're using our little hook tool to try and pull the headliner away so we can tuck it up. And it takes a lot of time and a little bit of massaging and patience, which as a man, well, you know, sometimes we just don't have patience working on certain things. So as we continue going and moving forward, we can get to the point where we reassemble the C-pillar again. And the C-pillar gets clipped right back in place. If you did remove the 7mm, make sure you put the 7mm back in place as well, because if the airbag does deploy, that 7mm clip is what holds it in place so it doesn't smack somebody who's in the rear seat, so the airbag can deploy sideways. So we're now running the wires up top and tucking up high, and we're going to continue moving forward and putting the weather stripping back in place as we move from the back of the vehicle to the front. And as you can see, I'm just tucking the rear camera cable up high in behind the airbag and putting all the weather stripping back in place. So now that we have the wiring over the A-pillar, we're going to take all that wiring that's behind the airbag and we're going to tie strap it to the factory wiring and make sure that it's nice and tight and out of the way of any of the clips or the 10mm bolts from going back in. And we're going to cut those tie straps and reassemble the A-pillar back in place. We've got to plug in the tweeter, and then we need to make sure it all lines up. And sometimes it takes a little bit of wiggling. And then we're going to take our 10mm and we're going to shoot the 10mm bolts back in place and put the little plastic covers over top so it looks good as new. So we're going to actually take the panel off on the front of the dash first. Please make sure to do this first, because if you try and take off the side panel, you will cause damages to those paneling. Then you take off the side panel. And we have a little bit of extra wiring, which is the rear camera cable. So we're going to take that and just tie it all up, put it in a tie strap, and hide it on the side of the dash. I should have taken a picture of this to give you a better idea, but unfortunately, due to the camera angle challenges, I just couldn't get it, but I should have taken a picture to give you a better idea. Now, with the Thinkware U3000 comes the OBD2 cable, and if you wanted to use the OBD2 cable, you just plug it right in, or if you're using a dash camera with an OBD2 cable, this is probably how we'd recommend most people do it yourself on a newer style GMC Sierra, Chevy Silverado, GMC Denali, Cadillac Escalade, those types of vehicles, because honestly, doing the hardwire method is very hard. Now with the Thinkware U3000, we're able to just cut off the ends, and now it turns into a hardwire cable. Yellow is constant power, red is ignition, and black is ground when it comes to a Thinkware hardwire cable. So now I'm going to take my light and just verify that it's getting constant power to pin 16 of the OBD2 port. And what I'm doing is just actually stripping the wire back so that I can actually hook up my constant power and ground wire. Pin 4 is ground and constant power is pin 16 on every single OBD2 cable since the beginning of time with vehicles that are equipped with an OBD2 cable. And basically I'm hooking up the constant power and ground to that, and then I'm going to solder these connections so that they're nice and solid. Then take my 3M tape and tape it all up nicely so it's nice and safe. And I like to use the Super 33, which is the really nice, expensive electrical tape. And then we're going to take Tessa tape, tape it up nicely so it looks like it's all factory with the wiring, so it doesn't look like anything is out of place. And we're going to put the 7mm back in place for the OBD2 connector. Warning: proceed at your own risk. We recommend professional installation. If you wire it wrong, you will cause damage. This particular wire that we're wiring to is what's called an ignition sense wire, which means it's only monitoring whether ignition is turned on or off. To better understand this, we actually have a video that explains what the different wires do on a dash camera. The video is right here. We would recommend watching it if you want to better understand it. If you're looking to wire a radar detector to this wire, we strongly recommend not doing that. This is not a wire you can put a load on. It is just monitoring whether ignition turns on or off. Now on with the installation. Okay, so now we're going to find our ignition sense wire, the light green purple wire, and we're going to strip the wire back and make sure that we can verify it with our test light. Now, if you have not done hundreds of vehicles like we have, and you don't know that's light green purple wire, please use a multimeter. in order to ensure your safety. We're just using this so that you see it light up and you can see that we're verifying that it's ignition and that it lights up as soon as we put the ignition on. And then we're going to solder it and then take our 3M tape, tape it all up nice. And as you can see from the picture here, that is the light green purple wire. And if you did hear our notice on safety, please verify. We do not want to see people have major issues with their vehicle because they made a mistake. We've done hundreds of these vehicles the same way and without any issue at all. So we're taking all the extra wiring and putting it into the kick panel. And then we're going to put some tie straps in there so it's nice and tight on all the factory wiring, and we're not going to see it move at all when you're driving around. Nice and solid. And then we're going to assemble the dash back together, starting with putting the side panel back in place and then the front panel. Now on to mounting the front dash camera. We'll clean it with some antiseptic wipes, dry it off with a paper towel, and then plug the dash camera in. We're going to verify the viewing angle, that no obstructions in the way, then mount the 3M tape to the front windshield. And this gives you an idea of the viewing angle you would get out of a Thinkware U3000 mounted on a GMC truck. Then we're going to clean off the rear window with antiseptic wipes, dry it off with paper towel. Then plug in the rear camera. Make sure you plug it in all the way and you hear a second click, because if not, then the rear radar will not work on the U3000. We're going to take the 3M tape, stick it on, and here's a little bit of a zoom in on how it is finally mounted on the rear window of the GMC truck. And here's the viewing angle that you get out of the U3000 rear camera. Thanks for watching our video on the GMC Sierra professional dash camera installation. If you are looking to support us at all, we do offer professional dash camera installation in Greater Vancouver or Greater Toronto, Canada. We also supply and install dash cameras, and you can take advantage of them on safedrivesolutions.com, where we ship into the United States and all across Canada. Thanks again.